So for all the employers in the house, this is a time to start reconsidering the work weeks. Just gonna put that out there. All right, for our final CEO interview of the conference, we'll be having an interview on the evolution of travel. So Kurban Group is a group that provides travel solutions, and they're starting to integrate technology in how they work and how they serve their clients. They provide personalized products, services in travel, tourism, and transport industries. We will be talking to the director of Kurban Group, Selim, who will be interviewed by the CEO of Arabnet, Omar Christidis. Please help me welcome them both on stage.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We are very lucky today because we have not one member of the Urban management team, but two. We're very lucky to have Selim with us, Director of Urban Travel, as well as Mr. Raja Urban, who handles the Allo Taxi and Urban Travel part of the business. Urban Transport. Transport, who handles Allo Taxi, Allo Bus, and the transport side of the business. And we're very excited about this because the travel sector is one of the first sectors that was really massively disrupted by digital. And Urban Travel is a recognized name in the Lebanese market. The company is more than 60 years old and has been operating across multiple verticals. And let us start actually by asking the gentlemen, guys, can you tell us how did Urban get started and grow to the major presence that it has today? And what are some of the key activities that you do?
Actually, it's a very exciting story. My grandfather, his father, actually started it 60 years ago.
60.
60, yeah, that's what I said. So basically, we started in 1952. He was managing the Pan American Airlines, does not exist anymore, and decided one day to open his own travel agency. So mind you, back then there wasn't really travel agencies. Traveling was kind of challenging. You had to go physically and go get your paper ticket. So and travel agencies weren't that kind of common. There weren't that many. So there again, 1952, he opened his own agency. And again, back then there was a lot of tourism towards the region, inwards the region actually. And it grew from a small agency to something really big covering the whole region. Now, during one of his trips to the US, he met with Mr. Warren Avis. And again, back then, car rental business was not that popular as well. And came back with the idea, or actually the franchise, for the Avis Rent-A-Car in Lebanon. So then just skimming quickly, 1975, you all know what happened here. But business had to continue. So he moved to both Paris and Montreal, opened shop there, continued business. And back in 1992, we all came here. So I was that big at that time, so basically I'm talking for everyone else. And we reopened shop. Now, the thing is, I know that Kurban Travel was among top in the 50s, number 50 or 60 in the ranking of agencies. Avis, and you started with?
We started with 10 cars, absolutely. We started with 10 cars in 1992, and we are today reaching around 1,500 cars.
Oh, and as for Kurban, we're the number one agency in Lebanon. And I'm talking about real rankings. It's not just a statement. Now, and then, so when we were back here, again, Raja had the idea of opening Allo Taxi. So that was done in '99. In 2006, we started boosting a lot the Kurban group, the travel side of it, acquiring then in 2010 some airline representations, and again last year we opened Go Kurban. So that's a bit the story, briefly the story of how we got to where we are today. Now, again, to go back to the key activities, you're going to see that basically in a huge screen behind me. Yeah, there's two things that we do. We don't do a million things. We're specialized, and again, we're experts in these two fields, in travel and transportation. You're going to see we've been working for, I'm third generation, and basically that's, again, we're very specialized. We do travel and we do transportation. We're the best at what we do, I guess. No, I'm pretty sure of it, actually.
So on the travel side, Selim, you guys have a number of businesses, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about Kurban.
So Kurban is our latest to the travel family. It's actually our online travel agency. We launched it last May, and we're building up since.
Excellent. And on the transportation side, Rajal?
On the transportation side, we have Avis, as Selim mentioned, since 1962. We added on that Allo Taxi, which was created in 1999. We started in 1999 with 10 taxis. Today we operate around 200 in Beirut, all around Lebanon. We also added in 2006 the brand Budget, which is also owned by the Avis Budget Group worldwide. And we have other satellite companies that do servicing for our fleet, because between all those, as I mentioned, we have a fleet of around 1,700 vehicles between Avis Budget, Allo Taxi, and Allo Bus.
Excellent. And we're going to get back to this because the taxi and transport space is one of the most interesting ones today, with the heavy competition that has been brought about by the Ubers and Karims of the world. But we'll get back to that. Let's start first by talking about, in 60 years, Urban has transformed, as we've seen. But in that time period, the traveler's journey has also changed. How has Urban changed to keep up with the traveler's journey? How has the traveler's journey changed? Let's start there.
Actually, the way we travel today has absolutely nothing to do with the way we used to. Back then, again,
yep.
Yeah. So back then, exactly. So back then, if you see where we are as a travel agency, we were an integral part of the value chain. Actually, a traveler couldn't go anywhere without us, because airlines used to distribute only to travel agencies. There was no internet. There was no online travel agencies, no aggregators. So basically, we were, to go back, it's either they went to the airline, so each airline by itself, and comparing by themselves a ticket to Paris, for example, or they were used to go to a travel agency who had those fares and who had the ability to compare the fares. And that's why actually the whole travel agency business, that's how it was born. Now, today, things have completely changed. There's no chain at all, actually, and the industry has put the traveler in the middle, which is somewhere it's actually amazing. So the traveler is connected to kind of everyone's connected to the airlines, to the hotels, to aggregators, so site comparison, online travel agencies and travel agencies. So that's where we came in and said, okay, so how can we get back to being part of that value chain? Because today, actually, you guys don't need a travel agency to book your own tickets. You just go on Expedia or any other, or go Kurban. Anyways, and book your own ticket. We're not bookers anymore. And actually, the travel agencies who are still with that business model in mind are not going to last very long.
Excellent. How have you guys invested in your digital channels in terms to compete against global travel online booking sites like Expedia or Hotels.com? And what do you feel is today your competitive advantage, right? As you mentioned, let's straw poll the audience. When was the last time you bought, or think of your last ticket that you bought? Did you buy it online? Raise your hand. If you bought it through an agency, raise your hand. Great. Now let's change that question, because we're going to get back to this later. Think of the last corporate flight you took where your company paid for your trip. Raise your hand if it was booked online. Raise your hand if it was booked through a travel agency. Great. So we do see some interesting feedback from the audience. So I'll turn this back to you and ask, what are your competitive advantages today vis-a-vis someone like a Expedia or a Hotels.com?
So basically, let's start by separating the traveling for leisure and traveling for corporates. Expedia and...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, that was actually for the last slide. So
there we go.
No. Anyways, let's keep that for later. There's so today the advantage that we're building up again. If we split the let's talk about leisure travel. Traveling for leisure is something that is really straightforward. It's not something that it's not a complicated process. That's why Expedia's and the Booking.coms of this world can accommodate you guys, because again, you browse, you compare, and you book. And that's where Kurban and that's where our online travel agency aims to compete at. Because again, to bring it back to you using a service like Kurban or the actual agency. You need some kind of added value to come to us. Now, if we get back to
we were discussing the looking at Expedia and the model of Expedia,
exactly,
and the question of how can online or brick and mortar travel agencies today compete in that world, or what advantages they can leverage as agencies.
So it's all about specialization. Today, there's absolutely no way a travel agency or a booker or a travel agency that only books can get somewhere or can give you an added value, except if you're really lazy and you don't want to go online. Now, the thing is, what we've done and how we've managed to survive and how we managed to grow in that space is actually going to that. So let's focus on the travel agency side. Today, most of your travel agent or your neighborhood travel agent that you'd go and buy your ticket in would be a one-stop shop. Today, what we did is actually we went into specialization. Today, if we talk about corporate travel, we're talking about a travel management company. If we talk about handling meeting groups and events, we have a specialized team to do that. And if we talk about the leisure side of things, so we're talking about the honeymoons and your vacations and so on and so forth, we also have a specialized team. Today, again, we've managed to survive and we've managed to get ahead of competition or get ahead of, stay above, let's say, the whole Expedia hype and by providing a very specialized service. Now, we cannot avoid the whole integration of online travel agencies, and that's why Kurban was born. And that's about it.
Great. So you're saying you're going to kind of more of a travel consultancy type model,
exactly,
where you have really deep expertise, and that's really where you're competing, because the system of the booking has become relatively commoditized.
Exactly. But again, no one needs us to only book a ticket.
Great. How many people here have booked a special holiday using a travel agent? Let's see. Special holiday, like a honeymoon, or when you took your last vacation, did you book it yourself? Raise your hand. Did you book it through a travel agency? Raise your hand.
Was it a complicated flight? Whoever booked a complicated flight online, meaning a multi-leg?
Well, okay. We also have a very geeky audience, so that might be a difference. Great. So, if we look at your sales today, what part of them is coming from digital, and how do you expect this to change in the next few years?
Okay, so we've had that kind of a debate, you and I. Let's talk figures. Lebanon, out of Lebanon, so the offline ticket sales, how much do you think the industry is worth in terms of tickets sold through a travel agency?
$100 million, raise your hand.
200.
200 million? 300 million? Okay, starting to see 400 million, 500 million, 700 million?
$1 billion? Anyways, we in 2015, the industry was as big as $560 million in ticket sales through travel agencies, so through offline travel agencies. Now, the thing is, I know we're not aligned for the online figures, but we estimate it at $80 million, $100 million about. So these are the tickets, airline tickets sold through online channels, which actually cannot really be be followed up. So going from that point onwards, we today, again, we've started our online travel agency less than a year ago. We're doing pretty well comparing what we were expecting, and we're doubling. Our growth is double digit from month to month. So that's something which is absolutely amazing. But what's even more interesting is that today our communication channels are mainly digital. What we do, we invest. Actually, our budget are massively shifting from traditional communication channels to the digital communication channels. And again, that's how today we are dealing with the whole digital world.
Excellent. So we talked about leisure travel. We were saying earlier about leisure travel. I should have given you the clicker earlier.
Right.
Avoid this confusion. So we've all seen how leisure travel is disrupted. We asked the audience. Most of them still do their corporate bookings through a travel agency. How has corporate travel been affected by digital?
So that's really interesting. The thing is, today corporate travel doesn't. Okay, let's do corporate travel 101. What you're seeing here is traveling for leisure. This is again the decision process that you go through. You browse, you compare, you book, whether through a offline travel agency or an online travel agency. Now let's take a look without getting into the details. What's about traveling for leisure? Because at the end of the day, you're traveling with your company's money. So it needs to go through a specific decision process. It needs to go through a specific security process. Now, the thing is, that space has been lagging behind on the whole technological side, because we had bits and pieces of technology coming in for, let's say, travel policy. We had bits and pieces coming in for security, so for traveler tracking. Now, the thing is, we've seen, and it's something that actually corporates have been loving. We've been seeing adoption rates of 90%. Their online booking tools. Have someone ever booked through a corporate online booking tool? Great. So again, it's not massively adopted in Lebanon, but we've had about five major clients so far. Now, in the region, we've seen a huge shift towards that model in Europe, in the States as well. Now, just take a look again, without getting in. Take a look between traveling for business on an offline process and traveling for business on an online process. Sorry, on an online process. We're going from a very heavy decision process, a very heavy process in general, to something which is really seamless. We're talking about approvals over the phone. We're talking about an auto invoicing, auto payment, and so an auto invoicing and automatic payment with live reporting, which is absolutely great. And corporates have seen a major. We've been capable of saving up to 20% of their travel budget through that tool. So yeah.
Very interesting. So I was telling Selim that as a small business, we would be very interested to use such a corporate booking tool so that we could leverage that. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about Allo Taxi and Allo Bus, which is part of the broader Arabnet group. We've seen major disruption by companies like Uber and Careem in this space. How many people here have used an Uber or a Careem in the last 7 days? Raise your hands. In the last 7 days, 1 week. Okay, not such a huge part of our audience yet. But do you see such players? First of all, do you see them as competitors? And what strategies are you putting in place to remain competitive and drive business in this context?
In terms, for Allo Taxi itself, I'll answer to your question in two parts. There's the Allo Taxi point of view, and there is the market point of view, the taxi market point of view. For Allo Taxi, we don't consider Uber or Careem as competitors for a very simple reason, that they don't do the same business that we do. They are a booking platform. They are the booking.com of the taxi industry. They don't operate. They don't own taxis. They don't have any control on drivers. They don't have any control on the product. So for us, technically, they are not today competitors. Now, if you take the basic taxi company that there are many in Lebanon, those companies do operate on a different model than we do. They do operate, they have an office, and they have drivers who own their own cars, and they get commission of the business they give them. That's the typical taxi company you found around town. Those companies are affected and are in direct competition with Uber because the driver, instead of being affiliated to a small office, he can affiliate to Uber and get more business, and when he would be paying the same commission. Our business model is totally different. We own the car, we operate them, we give added values to the drivers. A few of our drivers tried to go to Uber. They came back very quickly because they didn't find the added value that we give them.
But it's today, how does the consumer see them as different? Because I understand how your business models are different, but do the consumer sees them as competitors?
Well, it's the same. It's the same if you book a hotel. How does the hotel consider Booking.com as a competitor?
Well, Booking.com is a channel.
Yes.
For them.
Uber is a sales channel. Who says that we cannot take Uber as a sales channel for our products if they become successful in our market, which is not sustained yet?
Okay. So you don't believe today Uber is successful in Lebanon?
No, not really. Not
and
at
how
this stage.
would you make that estimation?
Well, first, they have a lot of issues. You have one is in order to get, they are a broker. So the broker to be able to sell needs products. So today, Lebanon is in lack of quality products in the taxi industry. This is why we created Taxi. Taxi came from a need in the market of quality, of cars quality, which was not available. Uber is coming into a market where there is none. The quality was introduced by companies like ourselves. So today, if you want to take individual taxis, there are none. If their success story is made in Dubai, is made in London, basically in New York, in Paris, where there is a huge number of cars that are of certain quality, and they affiliated like that to them. In Lebanon, it's not available. It's like if you say, just taking again the example of Booking.com, it's just if you say Booking.com wants to enter a market but there are no hotels. So what will he sell? So it's exactly the same story. We can see it very bluntly by the quality of cars. If you take a Uber, I'm sure you took Uber in Paris, in London, or in Dubai. You are driven in a Mercedes E-Class in Paris, in a Jaguar or Audi A6 in London, in a Lexus in Dubai. In Lebanon, the best car you can get is a Nissan Altima. The Uber X model is in Lebanon is a Toyota Avanza or Nissan Sunny, which is quite a small car for the ones who don't understand a lot about cars. If you in Paris, it's a Mercedes C-Class. It's a Audi A4.
So it's really about the quality. You're
in
saying you're going to differentiate yourselves by the quality of the cars, the quality of the experience, your ability to control all of that
No,
quality.
not necessarily. The quality, their Uber Black today is equivalent to our basic Taxi. What I'm saying is that they don't have enough cars for their model to sustain on the long term. And what they're doing, their pricing strategy today in the market is in such a way that they're trying to get market share by giving very low pricing. But then what's happening is that they're losing the drivers from the other side because the driver cannot sustain with such a low level of income. So this is they have a problem on that side.
So you believe that today Uber is running at below cost in order to grab
yes,
market share?
Definitely, much below.
And they are not running a sustainable business here?
No, they started their business, they were paying to drivers themselves from their pocket during certain time to get drivers to be affiliated to them. They stopped this model a few months ago and they started getting commission out of the trips. But their pricing is so low that they lost 50% of their drivers very quickly.
So let's shift gears. Unfortunately, we don't have someone from Uber right now with us, but the focus is for us on the journey of Irben.
I'm not sure they would recognize those, those facts.
But how have you changed what you do, though, to keep up with the consumer demands? The consumer is demanding that he has this ease of access, know where the car is.
Definitely. What we've done is we identified that need in 2008. We identified in 2008 that the taxi industry was shifting, and we started looking to digitalize and to automate the taxi process. So we acquired a taxi system in 2008, and we started automating. We removed from all our taxis the radio, which was annoying to the customers, and receiving orders by radio, and everything was computerized. Then we realized in 2013 that even this technology was obsolete, and we moved again to today what is considered in the taxi industry like the Rolls-Royce or best in the class softwares that has been developed by a major UK company that is today the largest taxi company in the UK. And this software has given us the advantage of having, of course, online booking tools, by spreading our sales channel by online booking tools. We have also an application that is much more sophisticated than what Uber can offer, or Careem or Halo or Lyft. So it's much more sophisticated in terms of technology, in terms of facilities that it can offer.
And I think we can see definitely as well on the screen, the adoption rate has been pretty impressive.
This is the, yes, exactly. And this is the evolution of our business since Uber came in the market. Our business went up significantly since Uber and Careem went into the market. Okay.
Great. So here we're seeing that actually after Uber came in, the volume of orders for Allo Taxi actually increased.
Significantly.
It did not decrease.
Because we introduced our application just before Uber did that. And our application has a lot of advantages. Not only the application, I mean our whole processes. First of all, we offer advanced booking. You can book your car even 3 months in advance. You can choose whatever type. Not only you don't have the choice between 2 vehicles, you have the choice between 6 different categories of vehicle, like a regular taxi, a standardized car, not taxi look, a luxury car, a 4x4 if you want to go to the mountain, a 7-seater if you're a small group. So all that are things that we offer through our app or the call center the same. The second option we have, you can pay by cash. Today, not all the consumers want to use their credit cards, especially in countries like Lebanon, where credit card usage is a bit sensitive. So a lot of people prefer to use cash. So we have cash payment, we have advanced booking, we have the possibility also, that's from the online digital sales channel. But there's also the call center. As you've seen in the previous slide, the call center plays still a big role. And a lot of people want to still book, have someone on the phone. You don't have this with Uber or Careem. You cannot call them even if you have a problem with you're waiting for your taxi and you have a problem with it didn't arrive or whatsoever, you can't call anyone. All what you can do is do a complaint on your app. So for our part, you can book your taxi online, you can book your taxi by telephone, you can book your taxi by app. So there's a lot of sales channels. There's a lot of possibilities. You can pay by cash, or we can even do corporate accounts. So we have today around 400 companies that have corporate accounts with us that we bill at the end of the month. So all those features are much more sophisticated than one Uber or Careem can offer, or do offer even elsewhere in other parts of the world.
Understood. We're about running out of time, so I wanted to, I had a couple of more questions, but I'm going to ask only one, which is if you could imagine the future of transportation. We've been in this business for 60 years. I know we're not going to look 60 years into the future because nobody knows where we're going to be there.
Future is easy for us. Future, the studies that we've been looking at, one in terms of travel, it's very interesting to see that in Europe, just quickly on the word on the travel, the studies today in Europe show that the consumers are going back to traditional travel agencies, despite the maturity of the online travel agents, because of the expertise, because of specialization. In terms of the travel, the transportation side, the previous presenter mentioned before that there is, for example, people don't own computers or servers anymore. They use clouds. Well, this is, when we assist to international workshops or international conferences, especially with Avis and Budget that do these kind of conferences, they saw that there is today in the Western world, maybe more than us, but it's coming, it's just a matter of delay, there is a less attachment to property. And this involves also the car, this involves the transportation, which means that in the future, people will buy less cars, people will be more dependent on transportations like taxis or limousines, if you want a car that is more luxurious, or maybe car sharing. And this is also a segment where we can look in the future. Avis and Budget own themselves. They have bought recently very smart way of doing car sharing, which is a company I'm sure you heard about it, called Zipcar. And they already tested Zipcar in the region. They started it very recently in Istanbul. And maybe in the future, that's one place where we can go, bringing Zipcar to Lebanon and offer car sharing, where you can, with your smartphone, take a car from the street. You locate where is the car, you open it with your smartphone. The car is being the ignition is put on through a central server, and then you just drop the car wherever you want, and then it is relocated for the next user wherever you left the car. So this is a technology that's available and that's running very successfully in the US now.
I love this idea because I don't own a car, and I hope that I will never in my life own a car. That's just me personally, but I need a car, so I would definitely. I would sign me up for a subscription to this car sharing service. I'm ready, but I don't want to deal with the hassle of a car. So
exactly, exactly what I'm saying. So people are less going into a property of a car, so using more public transportation.
Selim, any closing words on your side?
Actually, I've actually seen some piece of technology on how the future comes up in terms of booking in booking travel. It's all about getting there, being there, seeing what where you're gonna go, really to a detail, to a very high level of detail, and yeah, that's it.
Excellent, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank
you
for sharing your insights, and whoever would like to speak and learn more about what Urban has, please feel free to come up and speak with us. Thank you very much. Thank you for the audience.
Thank you.